Welcome to NeuroNoodle's Neurofeedback and Neuropsychology podcast featuring tech legend Jake Gunkelman. He's the man who has read well over 500,000 brain scans, and Dr. Marie Swingle, author of iMinds. Our goal is to provide information and promote options for better mental health. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the show and want to help us keep it going, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support helps improve the content and brings on great guests and grow the show. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/NeuroNoodle. But hey, if supporting financially isn't in the cards right now, no worries. You can still help us out for free by liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. It really makes a difference and helps more people find the show. If we've earned it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. The NeuroNoodle podcast is supported by listeners and businesses just like you.
And cover neuromarkers, but make it practical and follow a system that has a workbook and break it up with a lot of different types of learning styles.
What's the name of it going to be? Can you tell us?
I think it's just going to be, introduction to phenotypes and neuromarkers, and it's going to end with the encouragement of getting mentoring afterwards. Like, I don't think there's any course that can prepare you for not having mentoring. I mean, like, you should, like, I go to mentoring, like, I still have mentors. Like, so, like, I mean, like there's nothing that's going to close the book on mentoring, but it can give you a good jump start.
And is this a training or a book or both, or
It'll be both. I actually rewrote my basic intro book and put like 7 or 8 case studies in here. So I only had one, but I'm putting some very basic, simple case studies in there. I even put, I think, 3 or 4 phenotype examples in there, but they're less than a third as complex as I'd want it to be in the class. I have an idea of what I want it to be. Basically, I'm going to teach the class I always wanted. That's what I'm going to do.
Oh, good.
So I took maybe 15, possibly even 20 QEEG courses, and
wow.
I'm going to make the one I wanted.
That's the way to do it. They say to make something for yourself sometimes it's the best.
Yep.
Best entrepreneurship advice. Yeah.
My staff will benefit from it. So if it goes nowhere, it's great for my staff.
That sounds good.
So like onboarding, that'd be, if you can get like what percentage do you think you can get a tech to before they get hands-on, or is it hands-on?
I have my technicians shadow me and like follow me around, like they stay within like 6 feet of me or less for about 2 straight weeks. And then I have somebody watch them for at least 2 straight weeks that follow them around. Like they're like, watching them. And then after about a month, we kind of start to distance, but we check pretty closely, pretty regularly. We almost check every client, but we don't have we have eyes on them 100% of the time for at least a month. And after the month, we start to break our attention a little bit, and we slowly phase that out. So
isn't it a beautiful thing to put all that work into somebody just to train them for somebody else?
That happens sometimes, but it's all personality driven because we have a lot to offer in our building. And when they leave, they're kind of, I hate to say this, I think they kind of just do themselves a disservice because we have all the equipment, we have all the books, we have all the experience. And if you want to go into the jungle and thrash it out yourself, good luck. I did it. I didn't like it. If I had someone like me when I started off, I would have stayed. And I've got employees that want to stay. So. Yeah.
Clue everybody in, Joshua, about where you're at and your co-opetition. In your building, you have more than one provider there, right?
Yeah, I think there's 5 or 6 of us right now doing neurofeedback in our building. We've had as much as 15, which is usually more than one neurofeedback clinic. We weren't like dying, as Jay said it, you have like, the neurofeedback block, and then people just know where to go. Like that doesn't actually reduce your demand. It increases your demand when it's like, well, I know I have to go over here to get the neurofeedback because that's where everybody is. And so, I had an employee who started their own clinic, and they had some lease issues, and they were like, hey, is it weird if we just like moved in next to you? And it was like, come on in, it's fine. Like we can share some resources, we can share some trainings. I did some cross training with his employees. And so, I was able to help issues where it's like I trained him, and then it was like I'm seeing his employees and some blind spots, and I was like, okay, I'll jump in and we'll do a 2-hour session with your staff and, that kind of thing. And it was good. There's arguably, debatably not a lot in that relationship for me, except that if everybody in the area is doing well, it raises the whole profile for the entire field. And that's where that competition comes in. Like our scope of practice is wide. Okay. Like think about massage therapy. What's the scope of practice of massage therapy? How many things can that help? It's like good. Like, I'm not trying to dismiss massage therapists. I think there's a lot of good utility there. But does neurofeedback have a wider or a more narrow version of a scope of practice than massage therapy? Can we help more or less things? Like, we've seen we can help a lot. Like, there's some evidence we can do a lot, so, biofeedback and neurofeedback evidence-based practices, there's some good data in here. We can do a lot of stuff. And there are 200 licensed massage therapists in my small town.
Wow.
Okay, so we have a lot of neurofeedback providers. Like, how many is a lot? Maybe 15? That's a lot. Okay, 15. Oh, no. So my greatest threat to my clinical practice is quality control. Not even my quality control, but everybody else's. That's the greatest threat to my ability to essentially to do well in this local area.
How do you do the quality control? Do you do surveys, or how do you figure out that your training is scaling?
Well, I mean, you lose control of it when people start their own clinics to a degree, So you volunteer a lot, So I volunteered to do trainings at other clinics for free. I go away a lot of time. Just before I got on here, I had an email from a school that's, reading me some minutes of something, and they're having me come in and do staff training at the school itself. And so there's a lot of volunteer time.
Hi, Dr. Swingle.
Hello, everybody.
Hey there.
Joshua was telling us how easy it is to train new neurofeedback techs.
How easy it is?
Yeah.
Oh,
Was that what I said?
please share. I have totally not found that, but when you get
Okay.
oh my gosh.
I think Pete's paraphrasing me. I'm not sure if I actually said that.
Thank
I was
you.
explaining how for the first 2 weeks, we essentially have them shadow. They're within like 3 to 6 feet of me at all times, and they watch everything I do, and I explain everything to them. And then the next 2 weeks, I am essentially within 3 feet of them, and I keep 100% eyes on for straight 2 weeks. And it's for me or it's another experienced staff. And then after the first month, essentially we allow ourselves to kind of break that attention, but everything's checked. And that period of time where everything is checked, but we might allow ourselves to break that attention, that might go for 3 months or something like that if that employee is to work out. And they do go through some sort of professional course, regardless of whether they're a tech or an associate or a therapist. So, and we have nurses as well, and nurses do really, really well in neurofeedback, in my opinion. So I can't call myself. I'm a therapist. I was an orthopedic specialist before I became a therapist.
Joshua, what do you do about when you send those techs through the courses? I mean, I'm looking at worst case scenarios. It's just what I do. But you pay the tech to go through the course, and then they leave. Do you have any clawback or anything where you can get that, or it's just a trust thing?
It's a trust thing, and I think we have to provide the best experience for the employees. We have to pay them the best, and we have to. Now, some of them are going to do what they're going to do because of their personality, and that absolutely is 100% a thing. And there's nothing you can do about that, and you never could. There's nothing you could give them that would convince them that the grass isn't greener on the other side. And that's just some people, and you're not going to know who those are. But as a general rule, if you want to make it hard for them to leave, you have to be competitive, and you're going to have to be generous to a degree. And I don't know what the percentage is or what, but some people will stay because they see a good thing for themselves. They go, hey, I'm making just as much money as I was making when I worked at the hospital, and I'm not having to deal with all the hospital codependency and all the lying on the, time forms and all the fudging the reports. I get to be straight. I get to be honest. I get to do my job. I get paid fair for it. And it's the same rate that I got paid at the hospital. So this is a good deal, and they're grateful for it, and that works. So, and they get that purpose and meaning that you get from neurofeedback. We get good stories.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, our experiences is absolutely, completely and totally bifurcated. We have individuals that have been with us 25 years, 18 years. And then we have individuals who essentially recognize the name, want to be trained in the methods, and that's their only motive. And off they run away once they get what they have.
Sure.
And, I don't know. Can we do an EEG on people to determine which camp they'll fall into?
It's beliefs and value systems.
Yeah.
And that does not show up in the EEG. It does not.
Oh, I know. I was being humorous, but I guess.
Well, it's so nuanced about how you see the world, and there are people who, they want to build their sandcastle. It's like, okay, go build your own sandcastle. Yeah. That's fine. And that's a harder life, but they don't know it. It's fine.
Yeah. Joshua, where are you based out of again?
Vancouver, Washington. We're 2 miles north of Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, I'm just wondering in terms of, the difference between Canada and the U.S. in terms of what people can make in public service versus not. So our nurses in public service here are paid very, very well. And I agree with you that some of the best techs we have been nurses or individuals in the migration trap, essentially. So extremely qualified people from country of origin who are just waiting until they can get the transfer stamp. And those people I really respect. And as long as everybody's transparent and we know you're only going to be with us for a couple of years, and you help us out, we help you out, and those are beautiful relationships.
Sure. Yeah, and if I can hold on to somebody for 2 years, it's okay. I'd like to hold on to them longer because it's very rare that they learn enough to perform adequately. And when I have a scenario where I can't hold on to them longer because they're interning from a position where they're actually commuting, and the goal is maybe 2 years max, we pour a lot into them, and then we usually mentor them after they leave. I think Pete may or may not have met Laura, who's one of my former employees. She's got her own clinic out in Hillsborough. I still meet with her on Fridays, and I still do mentoring with her. And that's for the purpose of her kind of continuing to build a good clinic. And she does excellent job. No compromises, no automation, no, I won't name names, but we'll say no shortcuts, I'll just say. And that's what we want from our clinic. That's what we want from people who leave our clinic, no shortcuts.
Good.
Has training evolved yet where, let's just say for sensor placement, do you still have to do it on an actual human, or are there mannequins made out there now where you can practice on that?
We do. In fact, I have mannequin heads, a couple different types. I've got glass ones and I've got foam ones, and I do have them at different points when they're shadowing me. I will give them tasks, especially because I do a lot of talk therapy. I'll be like, okay, you can't stand on this next one. Here's a task, here's something to study, here's something to do. And at some point, I'll give them this mannequin head and say here's a cap, here's sensors. I want you to, mark the 10, 20 placements. And, they should be able to do that. It's at a certain point,
But you need the real head. I mean, the key thing, contact, impedance, all of that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
With a little giggle, they get their first assessment on this head with this hair. So they're finding the spots.
I did one of those today, and you're like, okay, hold on, let's take a second. This is you need some of these real stiff wooden Q-tips. Those help you out,
Yeah.
Make a nice hat.
Yeah.
Anthony, okay, nobody's asking a question, so let's go to your links that you sent out.
Sure. Well, I sent out to some of the usuals. I didn't know Josh was coming, so I apologize. But
no worries.
We used AI to going to my sent folder here. They used AI to look at a bunch of children's mental health cases, and among the most common underlying causes of escalating illness are sleep disturbances, problematic behaviors, adverse events, family mental health history. So it's kind of the usual suspects, but this final part. Sleep disturbances emerge as the most powerful predictor of future psychiatric illness. Yeah. And my friends with children, I think I'm observing some of that as well, unfortunately, So yeah, fielding that to the crowd here and see what you guys want to comment on.
Nobody takes it seriously enough. And, it's
Yeah,
kind of
no.
like eat your vegetables. Okay, everybody knows it, nobody does it, and then wonder why they have gastro problems or
Yeah.
certain forms of malnutrition that are associated with muscles or brain function or what have you. It's so obvious. It's so, dare I say, easy to fix. Even some children that have fear of missing out, not on their phones but in their lives, meaning they don't want to go to bed until the household is quiet. Get yourself a really good behavioral therapist. All kinds of things that can be done. But quite frankly, it's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. If kids just went to bed 1 hour earlier, maybe 2, had some good old-fashioned snuggling time with parents, with a teddy bear, with a book, what have you. I'm going to throw a number out, so please don't quote me on that, but I would say between 50 and 70% of the issues will be gone. We have chronic sleep deprivation in the young, highly associated with behavioral issues and learning deficits. They're not learning deficits at all. If a child is exhausted, they can't pay attention, and they're moody and angry and tantrumy. Yeah.
Have you seen Martijn Arndt's research,
Yeah.
the meta-analysis? Do you know what he attributed that to?
Sorry?
Did you know what he attributed that to?
The sleep deprivation. Yeah.
What's
sleep deprivation?
But what did he attribute the 2 hours less of sleep that we get than we did 30 years ago? Do you know what he attributed that transition to?
I'm going to say screen time.
So I had a chance to talk to him about it a little while ago. Screen time and maybe microplastics. That's the theory.
Yeah, there was a study we talked about on here. They're saying the children with the highest levels of microplastic in their bloodstream went to bed 85 minutes later.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what the association is? Do do they slow down metabolism or hormones or what is
it
the
increases like noise in the EEG. I think it's inflammatory. That was my last. I can go just look at my file on it.
Yeah.
So we're moving at a disadvantage against sleep, even if we do everything right. That's the takeaway. My kids, my little kids, 2 and 4, they get 12 hours of sleep solid every night. The 2-year-old gets an hour to 2 hour nap in addition to those 12 hours. No trouble sleeping, by the way. The 7-year-old still gets at least 10, maybe 11 hours of sleep and no problems. Like does not wake up restless. Like doesn't not angsty to get out of bed. They sleep until it's time to get up.
What do you attribute that to? That success?
Well, it's not just LEDs from the monitor here. It's also LEDs from the lights. And so we don't turn the lights on after dinner. The lights all go off. We leave them off. Yeah. And they slept noticeably better as soon as we started doing that.
Yeah. I actually, touched on that even in the book. There's Arndt's, there's Walters. I think I have the name wrong. But essentially, lots of people have been pointing out, in terms of what happened in the 1980s with light design. And if you look at, your grandmother's house and your grandmother's lamps, all the light goes down with a shade on it. You never had any type of direct light. And since 1980s onwards, we got these cool track lights, etc. Everything changed even before we had LEDs. And then the second we started putting LEDs in those, as far as I'm concerned, we were cooked.
Yep.
But bottom line, good old-fashioned lampshades, or just actually what you have in the back there. I think the globes go up, not down. One of the other key ones, and I always present this to clients in humor, the last room the most of us go into, also more typically females than males because of their quote-unquote beauty routines, has the brightest lights in the house. You spend anywhere from 2 minutes having your last pee to 20 minutes cleaning your face, et cetera, in the brightest light in the house. So get a dimmer or a night light. Do your routine earlier. I mean, so many of these solutions.
I got two little fact drops or data drops for you guys, which is one, I had a note here that LED lights, which are what we've switched to because they're more environmentally friendly, are bluer. So that may impact here.
Right.
The other thing I want to say is, and I don't mean this to be the end of inquiry by any means, but I believe the meta studies on blue light generally show that they don't seem to have an effect. They're having trouble finding the effect in the best controlled studies. So you'll find these one-offs that say, oh, there's definitely an effect, but for every one of those, I can find one that says that there's not. One thing I do want to mention is I know two doctors now, two MDs who've told me, they said, and one of them's a sleep specialist, and they said, if a patient tells me they're not sleeping, the usual answer is that they just don't want to. And what they're doing is they're up and they're manic. They're on something. So I think a lot of this may be the frontal slowing, that frontal theta pattern that makes people hyper-focus, basically ADHD, and the microplastics may be contributing to that. Maybe our screen time, our addictions as well, is like self-perpetuating. I'll also say that
frontal midline theta, you know, that
is a hyper-focus. You go into a screen.
Dennis Bloom's reward deficiency syndrome.
Reward sensitivity.
LEDs, no?
One thing, and that is, by the way, so obesity and frontal slowing are correlated. And as we know, obesity is an ever-growing issue. Well, actually, this past year was maybe the first year it didn't increase. And I want to mention this on the sleep issue. There was a study in the past couple of years that people who slept 1.5 extra hours per day ate 300 calories less. And that's like a pound and a half every 2 weeks.
I mean, so because it affects sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation affects the hormones. I mean, we all know this, and I'm going to throw in some humor. Okay, if you stay up too late, drink a little too much, what do you want the next morning? You want a big, greasy breakfast. Okay, you overeat and you crave very particular foods. So it completely plays with the hormones that regulate satiation. And yeah, I mean, we can go on and on and on about this one, but going back, Anthony, to what you were saying, another one that we have found, you know, very, very, very strong association is too much fast activity in the occiput. And so these are individuals that essentially need to exhaust themselves to fall asleep. So they do and do, waiting for exhaustion rather than healthy sleep pressure. But of course, everything that they're doing is pushing back the natural sleep pressure. So we've got all these catch-22s. But I mean, with shows like ours, and you know, just acquiring a little bit more general knowledge in terms of changing habits. And Pete, can I do a shameless promotion here too?
Please do.
All right. The Swingle Sonic Sleep app. Okay. We've actually looked at you know, regions of the brain that are associated with arousal. So we're looking in the occipital region. We're looking at the theta beta ratio. We're looking in location FZ, so what we call the hot cingulate, too much beta off of the anterior cingulate. And essentially, we're using HRV and our trademark harmonics to dampen those down. And our data is really, really strong. We're not just yip-yapping here. We've got the data behind it. So check it out if you're interested.
Very cool.
Joshua, are you checking it out?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Trying to find it.
Okay.
Where's all the data going?
Well, I'm sharing it at the conferences now.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm really, really transparent about it. You know, I joke about the wow numbers. Okay. So, you know, 89%, and we even have some that are 100%, you know, in terms of changing the theta beta ratio or changing the high beta beta ratio. But then, you know, with my, I trust my classic humor, then I get into the real numbers. So a positive effect that is not statistically significant, but you still tick the positive bias. It's like 0.02, okay? And it's still positive. versus, we get effects up to, 60+%. So there's huge range, huge skewing. But, I guess I'm trying to play and put a little bit of our profession under the microscope as well. Be careful when you hear people say 100% efficacy or 90% efficacy. Is it statistically significant, right? But we're really, really proud. Anybody who is an actual client, we confirm that it is doing exactly what we want it to do. And it is available to the general public, but some micro warnings there. We're really happy with what we have on both the sleep app and the brain calm app. Have very, very, very solid data.
The reason I was asking about the data is not for the privacy so much as, Joshua, is there any way to somehow put an overlay on a browser or something to pick up an EDF file and to put it in a place somewhere, remove the identifiers and match it up to the EEG, something like that, to make it easy for all these people that are doing all these tests every day to get that data? Any possible way to harness all that, Joshua?
Like machine learning?
Yeah, that's it. Machine learning.
There is going to be some presenting on that from machine learning specialists at Suisun in August. That's all that is willing to be disclosed at this time.
Okay.
Wait, August or October?
Is it October? I thought it was August. Now I get confused.
Jay's birthday, October, yeah.
Okay.
October? Sorry, Jay. Jay's birthday, October. The usual time. And that's all that's been disclosed. It's supposed to be a little bit under wraps. I do know that the University of UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio, Mark Jones. Yeah, Mark Jones. He's got a research board that I'm a part of, and they are accumulating apparently huge amounts of data. And I don't know when they're going to open that up because I've been accumulating lots of data on my side to submit. I think I've got hundreds of cases with disclosures to send to them, and they're supposedly going to have plans for that to be used for machine learning. And there's more than that. They have a lot of cool stuff. I don't know what's supposed to be available to the public, so I'll leave it at that. But there is room for all of that, and there's more than one group pursuing it, and there's more than one specialist who is specialized in EEG and machine learning pursuing it. So we have professionals with eyes on. Yeah, it's probably
Can I
going to
just make a comment? This might be a bee in my bonnet, but I'm so happy to hear the good, real term machine learning instead of AI, artificial intelligence.
Thank you.
Because there's so much BS surrounding artificial intelligence. So thank you.
I've been using this a little bit longer than other people. I've been tinkering with machine learning since probably 2018. A lot of people don't know this, but like the image on the front page of my book, I made this using machine learning in 2018. That's a long time ago when you think about how long the rest of the public's been playing with it.
Yeah.
So it's
30 prompts later.
What's that?
How many prompts did it take you?
A lot. It wasn't really prompt based.
Right.
It was more training. I had to train the model myself. Let's just say, and there's like, for example, this image, that was an image that was built off of giving it QEEG images. So like that's images I gave it from my clinic and trained it how to build a cartoon image of a QEEG. I had to train it myself. It's not easy. It took a long time. It did a lot of bad jobs first. So
you mean you had to put good data in to get good data out, Joshua?
like a lot of the machine learning images that I have, those aren't pirated in any sense of the word because I fed it the data. That's my data.
But let's just hound this home in terms of, I'm joking, but extremely serious in terms of, a lot of the things that are coming out of the quote unquote AI models on, EEGs, etc. If your data isn't properly cleaned, artifacted, has
Yes.
good impedance, etc., there's so much garbage data going in that, quite frankly, unless somebody opens the screen and shows me what not only do I not trust it, I know it's wrong. So you really need qualified people to make sure that what you're putting into any model that's going to be analyzing to try and do pattern identification, what you need to put in is clean.
Yeah.
I'm going to hound that home.
That's going to be very interesting. They have to build it from the ground up in the right order. And I suspect they're going to screw it up before they succeed.
Yeah, well, they already are. But what is it?
Yeah.
Pete, you had a request from one of the viewers to look at a very specific study. And our great guru, Jay, said, haha, no, because the data that was collected in such a way that, he wasn't as unkind in terms of saying that it was garbage, but it was just absolutely invalid. But, just the fact that, viewers as sophisticated as ours are intrigued by that and fooled and want to go into looking at it deeper. And this is happening consistently. So this is where, please show the raw data. And then even in numerical data, I work very, very commonly with the conversions. But you can see when the numbers just don't quite look right.
Or they're just so hilariously far off that you're embarrassed for your industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony, before I go on a tangent, can you go over your other links?
Oh, I think I covered both of the main ones. I had one comment on the AI stuff. I don't know if you want me to say it, Pete.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, just Mari and Joshua and everybody. I was just thinking, like, the data, I don't know how to say this properly, but they also need to know what they're looking at. Like, I was just reading a paper today, and it said that theta waves, this is just one example, they're associated with mind wandering, but in other occasions, they're associated with focus. So if they are, I guess what I'm saying is I meet neurofeedback people who I feel are more competent at knowing what's going on in the brain than, say, a lot of academic research papers, or at least knowing about those different states, these different states. And that's happening a lot in fMRI. So, I mean, the best example would be phenotypes. Like, I would trust somebody who knows Jay's phenotypes more than I would trust probably any AI right now.
You and I, Anthony, talked a lot about that, especially when you first got in the industry. You'd throw me papers and you'd say, what is, doesn't this mean this? And it'd be like, I don't know what this paper means when it says theta, because that could be alpha, that could be tonic data, that could be back, data, that could be drowsiness. There's like 8 things that could be, and the researcher doesn't bother to tell you. And that makes it useless to me. And you really struggled with that. You're like, what? That was the early years.
I recall that. I just learned to trust now the guru. But yeah,
I did a really, really fun. I thought it was a fun presentation. It was received well at AAPB, and I called it All About Alpha. And I started off with a tour on the internet. Just what is alpha and the supposed Hertz range and what it governed. And then, of course, really got into the detail of, what part of the bandwidth you're talking about, the location, what it's in balance or imbalance with, of course, amplitudes, ratios, etc. Just to parse in. And we're talking about, one of the waves. So, I actually label alpha the brain barometer. And, I think in our discipline, those of us who really work with the data know the huge, I would say, plethora of range of what these waves and what they do and where they do it, and how the exact same wave in one region of the brain is a superstar, your biggest friend, and in others, like, no way, that's a sign of injury. So yeah, maybe a call out in terms of define what you're talking about, because the names of the bandwidths don't mean anything to people anymore.
Yeah, and the researchers, I mean, they disagree real quick. There is a conflation of mu and SMR in the literature very often. And Jay makes the point, it's not mu that I'm seeing when the subject's in deep sleep, or I forget how you know what I mean? And that's not the frequency range when the cats were remaining still. Sterman's cats are. So anyway, yeah. So there's some very basic.
And that's been going on for 30 years, Anthony.
Yeah.
30 years. And if you hear, depending, it used to be Barry Sterman, now Linda Thompson. You can just see Linda, one of the most calm, gentle women, this irritation come up in her voice when you have to revisit this and revisit this and revisit this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like sometimes in these papers, they're relearning the same lesson.
Yeah.
It feels like they prove something that somebody that Sterman already proved, or this other. It's like, who is, it's, and I've heard this from a friend of mine who said, in academics, like, just being up to date on all the research is it can be very difficult, especially when you're young. A lot of it is a young grad student, et cetera. But anyway.
Nowadays, yeah. Well, you know what's also feeding this, Anthony, is the new that everything that you put in for presentation or site now has to be within 10 years. Now, I'm probably giving away my age here, but I don't hide my age anyways. And maybe it's a bias, but I think a lot of the true blue good work was done prior to 10 years ago, with few exceptions. And I think we should be referencing a lot of the work, even up to 20 years ago, because it's still the strongest work. And then a couple of the absolute key ones recent. Now, I'm not going to name names, but there's some darn good work done within the past 6 months to 5 years, but not all of it.
I'm quite fond of the work of Ruth Lanius. Like, I'm loving what she's putting out.
Yeah.
But you think about the complexity of that if you're dealing with like grad students or PhD students, and they're looking at like theta to beta ratio. Like you're trying to save them from pitfalls without having mastered a field. That's kind of like what the stopgap is. And so it's like, I kind of get it, but you're making a type 1 or a type 2 error. Which one do you want to make? And they're basically making a decision for you. And it sucks. It's not good, because you can't have it all. And I don't like that, because I want to have it all. And then for those who don't know, the theta to beta ratio is completely essentially thrown out because of the sleep issues we were talking about at the beginning of the episode.
Mari, did you say that? Oh, I'm sorry. Question for Mari. You mentioned, are they really requiring you or not to use papers that are older than 10 years old? Or tell me about that if you can.
Well, now the two big associations, APB and ISNR, your paper or your presentation will not be accepted unless your references or the works that you submit to support are within the last 10 years. Yeah.
I don't think I like that for a program like ISNR. I can understand that for like PhD students. I don't know if I like that for ISNR.
Well, it's for the APA credits. Yeah. If you don't
get a higher body that's telling them, is that what I'm hearing or something? Or, yeah. I've had people use that on me, like in an internet debate, like, well, that study's older than 10 years. I'm just like, that's the most, gravity was discovered 100, 50 years ago. What, we're going to throw in that? So I think I don't know all the reasons. That sounds a little silly to me. Especially when, by the way, and it's almost too depressing to share, but there is some research I have here that says that the number of like truly paradigm breaking papers or innovative papers, the proportion, I guess, the percentage is going down. Yeah, there's a lot more papers.
Yeah.
But the ones that truly are contributing something like new is unfortunately declining. Yeah.
There's way too much noise out there. I mean, I would hate to this is catching myself. This is a horrible comment. But I would have great difficulties being a student now. I wouldn't want to be one in terms of, many of these restrictions and the I would say the lack of excitement for things that are, the true curiosities. Like everything has to be proven positive. There's no excitement on the path where we know you're going to have multiple failures before you get the great success. And how many people have said this? I think it bears repeating and repeating and repeating. There is no such thing as failure on the path to greatness. You're curious and you're figuring things out. Just don't make mistakes in reporting things that aren't true, right?
Yeah, there's a movement to start reporting papers that have a null finding, and I think maybe some people won't allow that. Some journals don't publish those or something. And
I think, I don't know, if you can get a big enough group together, I think that is so worthy to just, and have some kind of fun name to it, you know, the journals of wrong on our way to right, or because you know how many studies have been repeated and repeated just because you know, they weren't published, right? I think everybody knows my absolute fascination with outliers as well. I think I've made my differentiated career on the outliers, so the outliers in alpha.
I'm new to research, Dr. Swingle, so you might help me out. I didn't know that people would like do the IRB, conduct the study, and then not publish it because they didn't get the results. That seems unethical. Like I'm
take them.
Because I'm in the process of an IRB to do a double blind, and like I'm publishing it no matter what happens. Like that's happening. Like okay, now what we're doing is very experimental, so it's not going to harm neurofeedback. Okay.
Well, I mean, the pharmaceutical company started this, you know, obviously because they only want positive papers. So there was an active quashing going on. And then also in terms of individuals who are seeking tenure and whatnot, you want everything to be positive. Also, new professionals on the employment market. You know, they don't want to, they're not going to get interviewed, or, you know, we're so biased towards the positive when, you know, many times the negative is much more important. You know, this is not an association.
Well, I would assume, I didn't know you could not publish it if you went through the whole process. That feels like cheating.
It is. Well, prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. But I mean, all you have to do is flip through journals, unless somebody's intentionally trying to disprove something. That's a different story.
Well, I'm doing a double blind on NeuroOptimal, and we're just going to publish it. Like whatever we get, we get. Okay. And it could be amazing. It could be mixed. It could be nothing. I don't know. I've done a number of case studies that were very interesting, but I don't really know how it's going to turn out. We're just going to publish it.
Great. So, when is that coming out?
I'm sorry?
When is that coming out? I'm very
I'm a very, very much a beginner. I don't have a PhD. You know, I'm very new, so I've been learning so much in this process. I've been talking about it for like 2 years because I had no clue what I'm doing. So the naiveness is like high. But I'm working through Quiet Minds, and they've been amazing, which is the IRB. And during COVID, I got some NeuroOptimal devices and had the ability to run that because people didn't have access to neurofeedback. So I was like, well, we'll use this because it's really, really popular in the area and people keep asking for it. So we'll get some of these devices and we'll give it access to the people who are asking for it. And it surprised me a little bit. So I thought, you know what? If we're going to be using this long-term at all, what we want to scale up on it, let's do a study. And that took a while for us to get that together because I had no clue how to even start. I didn't know what an IRB was back then. So we figured that out, which took a few years. And then we finally got an IRB through the university, and the university basically went bankrupt about 1.5 years into it. They were stalling and we didn't know why. And then we restarted with Quiet Mind like 6 months ago or something like that. And we're hopefully near the end of the IRB with Quiet Mind. And we are going to do like Stroop testing and CPT testing and a whole bunch of just cognitive tests, and then QEEGs and just a whole test battery of different stuff, pre-post.
No, I would absolutely love it because one of the major critiques, and I'm on this bandwagon, is the majority of individuals who ascribe to that program literally don't know what it's doing, and therefore I would say what they're doing. And yeah, I mean, people have heard me on this show and elsewhere saying that you need to know what your equipment is doing. And you need to know what you're doing.
They don't describe it like this, but like when I hear them talk about it, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but when I look at what it's doing and I hear them talk about it and I try to rectify it with my observations, I think, which I could be way wrong, I think it's trying to give orienting prompts to state changes or something like ERPs, and I don't know what it's exactly, but it's some sort of orienting prompts to state shifts or ERPs, and I don't know. And I don't think they'd tell me if I was right. So
no, I mean, but that's the issue, is the obscuring. Now, from the other side, boy, Pete, you got me on a rant today. There must be something going on in politics or something. Yeah.
Well, since you brought up politics,
No, but let me finish this, because I'm very negative today. So apologies to everybody. At least I can see it. No, but the big issue with this is not sharing what it's doing. But on the other hand, our methods, the Swingle methods, have just been pirated and pirated and pirated, and commercialized, because we publish the data freely. So I know in terms of the research that I'm doing now, I'm keeping it really close, which it's so wrong. It's so wrong. But on the other hand, if you do all the research and somebody just comes along and commercializes, so on the one hand, I understand what NeurOptimal is doing. But on the other hand, when you're working with probably the most important instrument of our whole body, not probably, it is the most important, and it's the strongest and weakest at the same time. I think we need to know what we're doing. Right? So, okay, rant done.
Radar saved us.
yeah.
Anthony, you got it?
Yeah. He asks, what's your opinion on characterizing neurofeedback as operant conditioning? This feels wrong to me, since so many people get single session results.
Yeah. Probably not true about alpha training, at least alpha down training, and not true about things like infraslow. Just doesn't fit.
Yeah. Well, but there's neurofeedback and neurotherapy, and the terms have been mixed. And this is exactly my point, depending on what program and what system you're using, you're either doing operant or classical. And many of us mix them.
I mean, I know that Siegfried Othmer used the term system signaling as an opposed to operant conditioning or classical conditioning. And when you look a little bit like what Mark Smith's system's doing, it's like tones for shifting states. You're like, well, we're not really telling it what to do, and yet there's a fairly visceral response in the nervous system. And you can see that quite suddenly in biometrics if you have them hooked up to like HRV, ophthalmic skin response, and heart rate, and all that stuff. You see that shift quite suddenly. And it's very different than control groups if you do that kind of thing like he did very quickly too. Similarly, alpha down training accomplishes way too many things in the QEEG. We didn't tell it to do 6 of those shifts when we trained alpha down. The coherence dropped.
Did you mention alpha by any chance?
Would have been like we trained alpha down. Why did it do these things we didn't tell it to do? So what's happening there?
Well, I have a very, very strong, and not, I even call it more than a theory. Alpha, I nicknamed it the brain barometer. In many, depending on where you're measuring alpha is a measure of homeostasis, right? And then there are specific locations and balances, et cetera, that give you specific information as to what the homeostasis or what the issue is. So, for example, too much alpha over what I call the frontal lidge is a certain form of ADHD. That's very, very obvious. But other forms of alpha are completely associated with creativity and pattern recognition, which isn't just artistry of singing and dancing. It's also higher levels of architecture, classic mathematics, these type of things. So alpha gives us so much information about everything. But if you're, I'm going to air quote, just alpha down, you could be, tweaking with the homeostasis and, getting some interesting results in terms of balancing, period, right? I mean, there's certain things, marijuana use is a very good example. Also other forms of toxicity, So in terms of the quote unquote relaxation effect of marijuana, I would say that's a misnomer. It's actually, I believe we're getting a reading of toxicity because we get the same disruption of alpha with people who work in construction, so laying carpets. There's
I agree.
Glue. People who work in plaster, plaster dust. So yeah.
I never thought of it before, but as soon as you mentioned that, it's like, I do see that connection. I absolutely do see that connection. You know, people who have chemical sensitivities, they look like they're on marijuana. It's like, yes, they do. They do.
Yeah. So I have lots of fun bursting bubbles in terms of what alpha is and isn't doing. Yeah.
Well, my point with the alpha was that like the asymmetries in trauma resolve, even though you're training it down at PZ. It's like, well, we didn't tell it to fix the asymmetries, you know, and as well as like the leptokurtosis and the coherence, and it fixes like 6 things just from training it down at PZ. Yeah. And you're like, well, so it self-orients to a degree. It's like turning a computer off and turning it on again. It covers a multitude of sins, and that's fascinating, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
now,
you know,
what bandwidth were you using? Like when you say train down, are you doing the full 8 to 12? Or are you doing the low, the high, the peak?
It's so usually it's the full bandwidth, though. If I'm dealing with your fast alpha patients, I'm gonna definitely train down. You know, like I get clients in here, like my wife, for example, he's like, okay, we're gonna train down 11 to 15 because she gets that fast, and we're gonna train up 8 to 11 just so we catch it. And that's when she's in like postpartum depression. We have to do like 11 to catch it and pull it up. As soon as that 8 to 11 pops up, she breaks a sweat. She feels good again.
Yeah. By the way, Pete can do his little qualifier, but I'm going to do one that depending on the profile and the reason why the person knocked on your door, sometimes exactly the opposite protocol is what's needed. It's the 11, 12 up and the 8, 9 down. So Pete, is this the perfect time for you to...
Perfect time to talk politics. RFK Jr.
We're asking for the disclaimer that things that you hear on the show are not a response.
We're here.
Oh, you're talking about the disclaimer that they should check with their primary care physician first?
Yeah, that thing.
For entertainment and informational purposes only. Serious note, with RFK Jr., just started out there, we're getting towards the end here, and I don't want to get into the quagmire of politics because I've had enough of it on social media, but just one bit more. Do you think that we will see an effect in our field if RFK Jr. has his way, meaning that he's going to make it illegal, he's going to ban advertising for drugs on TV? Do you think any of that will trickle down to our field? I'll hang up and listen for my answer. Thank you.
I mean, I could jump. Okay, go, Josh. I'm over talking.
I think the biggest effect will be indirect, and the reason why is because if you can't let the drug producers and marketers and distributors market on television, then you don't have a reason for the media not to talk about it. And that's actually the biggest problem, is that if they get the money from these sources, they don't talk about reality, because that affects their revenue, because their advertisers don't like that. They'll just move to a different network. And so you kind of remove that influence and you just get to see what reality is. And that's very, very different take than maybe what you'll hear somewhere else. But I think like, okay, I just want to see reality from the news. I just want it to be as close to reality as possible. Marketing kind of messes with that. Like advertising money kind of messes with that a little bit. And that's just my position, but that has nothing to do with the other people's concerns. Take it away, Maria. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, one of the things that, you know, it's kind of, when you think about gambling, everybody thinks it's the excitement of the win. It's actually the excitement of the loss that people respond to. So it's kind of the same thing as inverse, that frequently on the advertising, when they say it'll do this, this, and this, but then they have that long list of all the side effects, people thought that that would be a deterrent. It was actually the opposite. It means that my condition is so important and this medication is so good that I'm willing to risk these things, right? So, you know, whether we talk about reverse psychology or self-importance, and, you know, exactly what you were saying, Josh, was yes, when somebody is paying your major bill, you are a hostile dependent. So if the networks can stop being hostile dependents, but on the other hand, whether you, I know US is different than Canada in terms of who is paying for what, but that's a major advertiser, or major money maker, and keeping a lot of non-politicized networks on the air. So it's going to be really interesting to watch. But I think my last comment, and I'm going to use it out of context a little bit, is, you know, always listen to the hysteric, because every once in a while in their screams, they're saying something right. And I think that's the case with Kennedy. I think so many of the things he's saying are completely on a lunatic fringe. But then there are a couple of good points. And if the U.S. can latch onto those good ones, then do.
Check out Radar here. Anthony, you reading what?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said Betsy DeVos ran a chain of neurofeedback offices, and I looked it up, and it was called Neurocore.
Yeah.
And they had to pay a $5 million fine for advertising that they could cure certain things, which we're very careful on here how we talk about.
Sketchy. It was a little sketchy.
Yeah.
All right, but then there's Talbo, who says, I think RFK is going to make neurofeedback available to us through insurance. Hear, hear, Talbot.
Who knows? Who knows?
Hey, yeah.
I mean, if you take those sugary cereals out of the mouths of 2 to 6 year olds, I think that'll be a pretty good thing too. Yeah.
He likes sugar. He doesn't like dye, I thought.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
One thing all the sugar you want.
On that note,
on the tobacco industry in about 20 years.
Both on Mari's point. I'm so sorry, Mari's point and Joshua's point. It sounded like to me what I was hearing was the regulators did something they were hoping would create an intended effect, and it actually did the opposite, or maybe worsen things. And so I always think of that as a small government advocate. There's something called the law of unanticipated consequences. And I'm going to use Mari's example now. If you list the drug side effects, if you force them to, because they didn't do that willingly, I promise you.
No. Yeah.
They were forced to, and you're saying, and I'll go in, I'll look it up, but may have made people actually want the drug more because they're saying it might be so good then if people are willing to brave it. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. These things you never totally know what the effect of government will be in anything. So
Complicated.
Well, all the panelists and all our fans that showed up, thank you so much. It's just like showing up at a bar, just having a couple of drinks, sharing some information. Sometimes people show up at the bar, sometimes they don't, like last week, but we appreciate everybody showing up. Joshua Moore, if I'm in Washington and I need to get a baseline EEG, where do I go?
Well, you can come to Vancouver, Washington, Alternative Behavioral Therapy. But if you're in Washington, come crash at my house. I'll give you a room.
Oh,
I'll come give you a room. You can always hang out.
And if you're all booked up, there's 6 more practitioners on your floor, right?
Yeah, we have, I think, 5 of us right now, which is small. We've had up to 15 in our building. But we've got a lot of good practitioners in our local area. We like having a crowd. I like doing a lot of QEEGs. I think I only work on clients for talk therapy purposes, maybe 2 days a week. The rest I'm doing brain maps and I write a lot. So.
And what URL are people going to search you?
Neurofeedbackcare.com is where you can find me.
Outstanding. Dr. Marie Swingle, I hear you got an app and a book.
Yeah, so check out the sleep app and the brain calm app at swinglesonic.com. And my book on the effects of technology on the brain, iMinds.
Got it.
good job.
Anthony Ramos, thousands
We'll get
people on
one
his
day,
Facebook
group.
Where can people find you?
Just Facebook, Science and Technology Discoveries is the name of the group. And then, but always trying to talk in we have other good groups, Brainmaster, Neurofeedback Exchange, and Reddit. There's good groups. And so, there's good stuff.
Fantastic.
All right, guys.
All right, all. Have a great weekend. Good mental health. Stay away from Facebook.
Thank you, people. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you later.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the show and want to help us keep it going, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support helps improve the content and brings on great guests and grow the show. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/NeuroNoodle. But hey, if supporting financially isn't in the cards right now, no worries. You can still help us out for free by liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. It really makes a difference and helps more people find the show. If we've earned it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. The NeuroNoodle podcast is supported by listeners and businesses just like you. Hey everyone, here's a quick message from our good old buddy Joshua Moore at Alternative Behavioral Therapy.
I'm preparing to do an introduction to QEEG phenotypes. This is my first workshop on the topic, and this is just the introductory overview of the project. This is going to be very, very basic. So let's review each phenotype. We're just going to go through them one by one. If you look at the DSM-1, 2, or 3, and you look at the first chapter, it actually acknowledges that the DSM in mental health is just, quote, a descriptive adaptation, unquote. We're going to customize the interventions and tailor them to the individual's brain activity, not just applying the treatments or trainings to the individual's phenotype and maybe even their variants, but also customizing the protocols themselves to fit that person's individual unique frequency patterns. Maybe a dozen ways to have excessive energy in your nervous system, and then there's an infinite amount of ways to relate poorly to that excessive energy, which means that there is a lot of variations in what someone might call anxiety. And that doesn't mean that we're talking about the same thing when we're talking about anxiety. So complicated stuff. But when we look at a brain map, we get some basis in which we can start talking about what is this energy. Then we have to go to the client. We have to start talking to the client about what is your association to this specific kind of energy that I can see now. Then we get to care about things that insurance doesn't restrict us on. We get to care about like the person in a broader way. 85% improvement in mental health report following pairing a medication with a specific phenotype. You know, geez. Okay, have you seen 85% in any mental health studies for any medication? I'm going to be going over a whole bunch of different types of tests, assessments, and things that can be used that have things called neurocorrelates, which you saw some of those already. Better success outcomes. That's what we really want. We need better predictive power. We need better individualization. That's what we want.